In 2022, BMW made 50 3-litre CSL specials to celebrate the 50th anniversary of its M division. Last year, it used the fabulously glamorous annual Villa d'Este concourse to reveal the Skytop, an eye-catching two-seater with a clever roof, of which just 50 are being made.
And here's this year's showstopper, the Speedtop. Yes, you can see the family resemblance, the same sharky nose and the same clever graduated burgundy paint job. But this one is that thing that we all really love, a shooting brake. Well, sounds more glamorous than estate, doesn't it?
Or indeed touring for that matter. The shooting brake sounds aristocratic. A brake was a kind of horse-drawn carriage, which was adapted for use by hunting parties and slightly rakish in form, as is this one. It's based on the current M8. So there's a 523 bhp twin-turbo V8 under that V-shaped nose. Although in Speedtop, guys, it's more about knowing you've got the potential than actually using it. Note the pronounced central spline that runs along the bonnet and continues over the top of the car. Note also the absence of traditional door handles. Somewhere in the middle of the roof, the colour shifts from what BMW calls sunstone maroon to floating sundown silver. Lovely. There's more volume and curviness at the rear, and of course, additional luggage space. We'll show you what's in there in a moment. Actually, the luggage comes with the car, the work of Italian specialist Schiedoni, who also created made-to-measure bags that sit in the rear seats. Yep, despite its size, the Speedtop is strictly a 2+2. Elsewhere inside, you can see the 8 Series origins, but there's brogue-style perforated detailing and a maroon finish that complements moonstone white leather. Not wholly practical, but lovely to look at. BMW says this car is like an exclamation mark for its lineup, especially for the touring models. But that's enough from me. Let's meet Max Missoni, the former VW, Volvo and Polestar design chief who joined BMW last autumn. I asked him first about the inspiration for the new car.
The whole story started with a Skytop, and that car was then brought to customers in 50 units, and that allowed us to then take the second step to the Speedtop, which then is a shooting brake in a small series production. This is such a rare moment where we can actually get a shooting brake like this, such an extreme example of a shooting brake into production.
But for a massive company like BMW to be able to do these very limited run cars, as a designer, what kind of freedom does that give you? I mean, because you're doing something for a very, very small audience, does that allow you, it must liberate you?
It is liberating. I mean, show cars are the other extreme. You go all the way, but then there's always this notion of, it's never going to happen, you know? How sad. It's beautiful, it's stunning, it's impressive, but it's never going to happen. With these things, and that's why these cars are so special, you still have this notion of something extreme, something extremely special, but you could, in theory, you could own it. So I think for us designers, that's the perfect blend of the two, of this exotic vehicle on one hand and of the degree of realism on the other hand. And that the brand BMW can stretch all the way up to these type of cars. I think that says a lot about BMW. It is possible now, and let's see where this whole idea is going. I mean, this is now, I think Skytop opened the door for this process. And now this one is the second one, and let's see what the future brings.
Right, so that's the backstory. Let's get more into it. It clearly expands an idea begun with last year's Villa d'Este crowd pleaser.
So since it's a sibling to Skytop, it's clear that it takes a couple of cues of it in the front, for example, and that's totally deliberate. I mean, these two cars, also in terms of color material, work as a pair. And that meant that a lot of things were given, a lot of things were predefined. But I have to say, when I saw it coming out, before I joined the company, I mean, Skytop is stunning, you know. And so for me, that was a very easy thing with the team to develop that into the shooting brake. And I had, you know, we discussed things like proportion, like the angle of the rear screen, the kind of feeling, because it is a very, very extreme shooting brake. You know, you see how fast the rear silhouette is.
There's something about that elongated shape, isn't there?
Well, there's always been this duality of, you know, is the shooting brake something, or actually the estate something that's going to make it into the future, or are the SUVs going to replace estate cars?
Should have killed them off, shouldn't they?
And which ones?
the
The SUV should have, yes.
Yeah.
But the thing is that, first of all, now with electrification, we realize that this lower silhouette, the lower frontal area, less frontal area is actually very good for range and for efficiency. And that means that actually the added space you get from an SUV minus the head clearance, which you arguably don't need, those two things are very modern and very efficient body style. So I really hope there will be a kind of a resurgence of these estate cars, and the shooting brake is just the ultimate dream of an estate car. So I think, and it's if you wanted, you could take this addition to your lifestyle. And this one is an interesting example because it is a two-seater with the added luggage. And you have a lot of luggage room, I'll show you that. So that really justifies the shooting brake style. But then they have a certain style to them. I mean, it's hard to explain, but a coupe is always something that tries hard to please. You want to look sporty, it's something
Glamorous,
eager,
isn't it?
glamorous and eager. This one is like, I don't need to show off. I'm cool, but I still have the elegance and the dynamism that a coupe has.
You see, you have the potential, but you don't need to shout about it. Top Gear already rates the M3 Touring as the coolest version of that car, so this thing had us at hello really. Mind you, at around £500,000, the Speedtop has the price tag to go with that potential. So what else makes it stand out?
And there's another little thing, probably quite interesting for you to see. There's a color gradient in the roof.
Yeah, that graduation that the Skytop had.
Skytop had it in the bonnet, right? And this one has it in the roof.
Yeah.
And sometimes you think you have a visual issue, right? You don't understand that it's two different colors just perfectly, seamlessly blending into each other. And that's very skilled craftsmanship when it comes to the paint job.
That's tricky to do that.
Yep. That's why it's possible here.
Yeah.
This is what you get. There's so many more things like this, but this is what you get extra in such a small series production. I mean, many things are possible here that you couldn't do in large series production. What is the beauty here is that you can go much deeper into the materials and into the matching of things. There's less variation and you can curate it to perfection. And I think that makes these cars so special.
BMW is making just 70 Speedtops, so each will be a vanishingly rare sight. The sort of thing, in fact, that will turn up at concours events like Villa d'Este in 50 years' time. Incredibly special, but not unique given the complexities of the paintwork and interior. We wouldn't normally say this on Top Gear, but it's time to look at the boot.
So that's another part that I think the team did an awesome job in executing. It has this presenter surface on the top, where you can put your day-to-day luggage, and then here you actually have quite a lot of space.
Yeah, it's well roomy.
And then we have this light strip here that works on both levels with that, which I think is quite clever. So it illuminates the lower compartment, but also when you close this, it illuminates the upper compartment and gives that really nice relief to these brogue pattern straps. So it really, it plays with this duality between the historical references of a shooting brake and the whole Villa d'Este notion. But as you can see with the technical elements like lamps and so on, it's a very modern design. Very modern.
Leather as well.
Yeah. Well, small series production, you can do this.
Yep, there's leather everywhere on this thing. But would you believe that on a limited series car like this, it's actually easier to modify the exterior bodywork than it is the interior? So, what has BMW done to elevate the Speedtop above the £100,000 donor car?
So, as fabulous as the exterior is, the interior, it's the same as the 8 Series architecture, but with substantial material richness and also some interesting design. That spline line.
Yeah, the center spline that you see here, coming from the Skytop, it had the same in the front, and there was the color gradient coming out of these openings, and here the color gradient is in the roof. But what's special about this in this particular car is if you look from the inside, you see that this spline is repeated, mirrored on the inside. So and then there's an indirect light giving this wonderful warm ambience in the car, which is possible because we don't have a glass roof here. Oftentimes nowadays the glass roofs, but here with the contrast in the headlining being this light material, it really gets very, very warm and beautiful.
The Speedtop has just been revealed amidst much dry ice and hoo-ha at Villa d'Este. It's where the world's greatest historic cars gather, but for the past 2 decades, BMW has also used it to tease us with specially created show cars. We've seen clever homages to the M1 328 in 2002, but it wasn't until 2015's 3-litre CSL homage that these morphed into reality, rather than just being historically influenced eye candy.
The Villa d'Este Concorso d'Eleganza is an annual celebration of car design, both contemporary and historic. And the Speedtop taps into that rich legacy, but it's also a statement. BMW, the giant car manufacturer, is also its own coach builder. Bellissima!